next I'm going to start thinking about my foreground and my middle ground. Okay, so yours probably doesn't look like mine, but that's okay. We want them to be different. We want to add our own touches in here. The reason I didn't put marker on here quite yet is I wanted to decide what I was going to do in here that would make mine unique. And I think what I'm going to do over here is I'm just going to add a tent. We're going to make like a little campsite in here. Okay, I know that this is closer to the viewer, so I'm going to make my tent a little bit bigger. You could maybe do a camper or a stream or some rocks, or maybe you want this to be the desert, so you're gonna do like a cactus or something like that. That's really up to you. So now that I have my tent in there, I really want the viewer to focus on this, and it's a pretty simple design. So I'll go over it with my thicker marker. There's my tent poles. You could have some lines coming out. Then I'll switch over to the thin one for the stakes. And then I'll just add some value on the inside so we know that that's the inside of the tent. Use that hatching. I'll cross hatch it a little bit so it looks a little bit darker. And then I'll do some lines coming down. Maybe we'll add in a little fire here. So. A little bit big compared to the tent, but that's okay. This is why I should do it in pencil first. And then I can go over all of my other lines with Sharpie. Can make those all a little darker now that I know I'm not going to have to erase any of these to get them out of the way. The only other thing I'm going to add in here is trees and a little bit of texture. Maybe we'll add a tree here. Now I know that this is closer to the viewer because it's in more close to our foreground, so I'm going to make this tree pretty big. And I'm just using line to create those boughs, those branches. And I'll have it go behind the fire. Create one over here. It's a little bit further back so it's not quite as tall. And this one will go right off the page, right onto the tape. We'll put one over here. This one I know is a little bit further away, so that one's gonna be a little bit shorter as well. Goes a little bit back into space, so things that are further away appear smaller. If I put a tree back here, it's gonna look really tiny. Do a couple of them back here. And if you want this to be more wooded, like a forest kind of area, we can really fill this up. Maybe I'll do a little one back here. Makes those mountains appear really big. If I do them back here. I can put them on the mountains if I choose, but they're gonna appear really small then. Medium sized. Now I'm gonna add in a little bit of texture on my mountains and in some of my areas where there's land. Like I know that I want this to appear a little bit more detailed, maybe like rocky or something. So I'm gonna add some lines in there that imply some texture. Up on my mountains, I can do the same thing. I can apply some lines that imply texture. When we imply things, we're not actually creating the texture. Like I'm not actually making this appear or feel bumpy, but I'm adding lines that make it appear like it looks bumpy, okay? So we're making us think that it looks kind of bumpy, like there's some texture. All right, and there is my finished product. That's all that I'm gonna do for lines. I could make these look a little bit darker by adding some more lines in between, but for right now, I'm really happy with how this looks. So that's where we're gonna stop for today. You guys have 2 pieces of watercolor paper. So that means you have to come up with 2 different landscapes. I want at least one of them to have a mountain in them, but the other one you can do kind of whatever you'd like. If you'd like them both to have mountains, that's totally fine. Think about adding other things. Like we can add in water, we can add in more trees, we can add in different kind of trees, you can add in a river, you can add in rocks, you can just add a camper, you can do whatever you like there. So we're gonna draw 2 of these this week, and then next week we're gonna learn how to add the watercolor, so how to add in our skies. So we're gonna make 2 of these, and that's where you're gonna stop today.